in continuing where we left off with our last lesson, if a mubtada is followed by these huruf or a mudaf as well as one of the dhuruf, it will always take the place of the predicate, just as knowledge is outstripped by etiquette. And of course, this has a twofold meaning, right? The first being that if the typical predicate that contains all of the rules and basic foundational principles that we've learned, right? The singular noun that's indefinite follows the mubtada and is in a state of rafa, is missing, and the three types of alternatives to the predicate are present, then they're going to act as the predicate, right? Very important to know, because many of these different fragments that we've learned can act as a predicate within a sentence. So if we're just focusing on one thing, it's going to hinder our progress in reading and make things really difficult. And so they're elevated to the status of a predicate, right? A khabar. Just as knowledge is outstripped by etiquette, right? Having good character, having good moral and ethical standards that you hold yourself accountable to will inshallah elevate our status as well, not just in the dunya but in the akhirah. This adab, this akhlaq is not only a means to knowledge, right, but it's a sign of its fruits, right? The Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect, I was only sent to perfect good character, to complete it, right? And there are so many different ahadith that speak about the virtue of good character, the importance of good character, good morals, principles, right? Ethics, certain conduct, right? And if we just reflect on the example from the Quran in our previous lessons, right? إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. This is something that Allah Ta'ala praises the Prophet ﷺ for and highlights. And it's a means of elevation. لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. And Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, said that his mother, when she would send him out to learn from one of his shuyukh, she would say, take from his adab, learn from his mannerisms, learn from his akhlaq, learn and take from his etiquette before you take from his knowledge. So this is just a quick little added benefit. It's not just some nasiha, but also a means of helping you remember this concept, inshallah. Remember this and you will have nothing to fear. Inna Allaha ala kulli shay'in qadir. We see this ayah here in the Quran, a whole lot going on here, right? A whole lot going on here. And this is why we're taking this foundation up approach, right? Because you're not just going to see simple sentences like Zaydun talibun all the time, right? All throughout the Quran, you're going to find ayat like this, right? Throughout classical texts, throughout classical literature, you're going to find more complex sentence structures, right? Very important to be able to identify these parts and break them down. And again, twofold meaning here, right? Remember this and you'll have nothing to fear. Inna Allaha ala kulli shay'in qadir. Indeed, Allah is over everything without exception, all powerful, right? So if these concepts are difficult, or maybe you're just going through a difficult time, right? You're facing some difficulties, some challenges, as we all are at different stages of life. Remember this ayah and you'll have nothing to fear. Right? But also remember this ayah that contains all of these different elements we've just discussed, right? And it will make your understanding of the Quran easy, inshallah. So we see here, Inna Allaha ala kulli shay'in qadir. So we see at the beginning here, the harf inna, right? Inna, harf nasb. And we know that whenever inna is used to start a sentence, the mubtada is inna plus the ism in attendance, right? Here, lafdul jalala, right? And we can see it's in a state of nasb, right? So we found our mubtada here very easily with just that basic principle. So, inna Allaha, indeed Allah, and then we look to see, is there an ism, mufrad, singular ism, in the state of rafa that is indefinite, following the mubtada? And looking at the end of this ayah, we see that there is an ism that is singular, that is marfu', that is indefinite, that follows the mubtada. The problem is it's not right next to the mubtada. We also see here ala, right? Harf jar. We also see here kulli, right? One of the words included in the list in the chapter on the genitive case, on the genitive form, that always play the role of a mudaf, right? So we have kulli and shay'in. Notice the kasratain at the end, it's in a state of jar, right? So we have an idafa fragment here. We have a jar wa majroor construct here. And we also have our singular ism, right? Our singular ism that's in a state of rafa and that is indefinite, right? What do we do in this case? How do we translate this ayah? And so you'll notice here, I have the order of importance for the predicate. And first up, we have the singular noun, right? The singular ism in the state of rafa that is indefinite and that follows the mubtada. This is always going to take precedence over the rest. So whenever we have an ayah like this, or we have a sentence like this where there's a lot going on, right? And we don't find our typical mubtada right after, and we also find a jar wa majroor construct. We also find an idafa construct, right? But this singular ism is present within a sentence or within an ayah. This is going to take precedence. It's always going to be the khabar, right? It's always going to take that role. Everything else is just connected to it, right? Next in the order of operations is the verbal sentence. For example, we might say, Zaydun yusalli, right? Yusalli is a verb, meaning to pray. Zaydun yusalli, right? This begins with an ism, right? Zayd is an ism alam, right? It's a name. It's definite. It begins the sentence, right? It fits the bill of a mubtada. It is the mubtada of this sentence, right? What follows is a verb though, right? Yusalli. And yusalli here is going to be considered the khabar, right? So in this case, this is what's going to take precedence, right? And we're going to take a look at this a little more deeply once we get into the chapter on the verb, inshallah. Next up, we have the prepositional phrase, right? We have the harf jar ala and its ism here, right? Notice kulli is in a state of jar. It's being impacted by the harf ala, right? So if this singular noun is no longer present within a sentence, this is the order of importance here, right? This is not present. This takes precedence, the prepositional phrase, like we've seen throughout these examples, right? Or the adverbial phrase or the idafa construct, right? Which we can see here, kulli shay'in. However, in the case that this ism, singular ism is present, none of these take precedence, right? They're simply connected to the khabar. Muta'alliq bil khabar. And we're going to take a look at all of these different grammatical terms as we're going through text. So looking at this, it would be sufficient enough to say, right? Inna Allaha qadirun, right? Indeed, Allah is all-powerful. Or Inna Allaha qadirun ala kulli shay. So why bring ala kulli shay before qadirun? To highlight and add extra emphasis to the fact that Allah has complete power and control and authority over absolutely every single thing, without exception, right? So indeed, Allah is over absolutely everything. Qadir, right? Powerful, capable. Inshallah, you found these lessons beneficial. Don't forget to drop a comment below, leave some of your feedback, leave some of your questions. Let me know if this lesson was clear. Don't forget to share this video with other people who can benefit from it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.